conversations on culture, life, and everything in between.
Welcome to The Bridge. We are a show which connects East and West. My name is Jason. I'm originally from sunny California, the Golden State, now living in Beijing, city of museums. Today with me is Baby.
Hey, hi Jason. How are you?
Find us where you get your podcast. If you like the show, then consider pushing the like button and hitting us 5 stars. Suggestions, comments, anything you would like to share, email us at welovethebridge@gmail.com. We love the bridge.
Do we have time to chat? Because I want to know about your spring festival trip, how you survived your stay at your wife's, your wife's hometown?
Yeah, it was lovely.
Was everything okay? Did people eat you up? Oh, here comes a foreigner. How was
there
it?
were lots of foreigners in Yantai, surprisingly, more than I've ever seen before.
Aw, so did you not feel special and pampered?
It was snowing part of the time, and there's this new part of town.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of it, but it was in Beijing. We have a place called Nanluoshan, which is like an alley full of shops that's cool, and university students go there, and there's lots of yummy snacks.
Like ancient part of Beijing kind of thing.
They opened a place that's much like that in Yantai, where there's like this whole series of interwoven streets that kind of resemble the Beijing hutongs. And there were snacks. And I tried for the first time Yantai chua there. So this is like a barbecue on a stick, right? And now I will never be able to eat Beijing chua again. The Yantai chua was it was so much better. It would each of the pieces of meat was like a hunk of meat, and it was like. And now I look at Beijing chua and I'm like, where's the meat? Oh yeah.
You're listening to The Break. I know we have something very important to talk about today, and I already sound very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So January, Sunday the 8th, last month, the American Farm Bureau Federation passed a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, ensuring farmers had the, quote, right to repair already purchased equipment, with the governor of New York State signing the U.S. first right to repair law in December of 2022. The movement is picking up steam, a right which is already enshrined in laws in nations around the world, making inroads into the U.S. You know why I find this important? Because it matters to the environment.
Hey, I was going to ask you, because as I was reading this document, I was like, right to repair? First of all, my first question was, why do I need a right to repair? And second of all, I was like, farm equipment? When did we start, learning about farm equipment? But then when I got into it, I realized, this is actually a huge deal, and it can influence all of us, not just farm equipment. Yeah, I think you probably just came across one of those articles online about something specific to the farming industry, which is important. But repairs, it's related to everything we use. But I also want to ask you, how did you come across this?
Well,
this is kind of random, right?
I've been reading about this for years, but I found the article in January, and I was like, okay, this is relevant because there's new developments in terms of the U.S. I thought that was interesting. But, I wanted to tell a story that happened to me last year. My wife bought me a watch a couple years ago, and it's one of the big brands. I'm not going to say which brand it was. And it had, at that time, the right to bring it in forever to the shop, the official shop, to have it opened up and the battery replaced for the existence of the watch. The watch exists, the battery can be replaced by the name brand that sold the watch. But we went to a private watch repair person here in Beijing, even though this brand exists here, and they could have done it, and had the battery replaced. Now, if we bring the watch to the brand, they will say, we won't touch this. If anything goes wrong, you're on your own. Because as soon as you have the watch repaired by a non-official watch repair person that does not work for that brand's company, your watch falls out of their warranty, which, is kind of in line with this issue.
I kind of understand this, right? They don't want other people to tinker with the mechanics inside. But the right to repair, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I think it's more relevant. Okay, so this is the first time I heard of it was when the iPod came out, the original iPod. When the original iPod came out, they designed it to fail. Literally. There's whole documentaries you can find on it. So they designed the battery specifically to fail. So that after the battery was had failed, you would not be able to continue using that iPod, and you will have to throw your iPod away and get a new
one.
iPod. Yeah, so this ensured that all of these young, trendy hipster types would constantly be buying every year or so a brand new iPod and increasing Apple's, market share and the amount of money that the revenue that they were able to make from selling this gadget.
Before the battery even breaks, they come out with a newer model, right?
Yeah, that's their strategy now. Yeah.
That's a strategy that's been in place for decades. I'm not too sure if they started there, but I was just reading about this. Back in 1926, General Motors, under the management of Sloan. You know about him?
No.
Alfred Sloan?
No, I do not.
Okay, anyhow. So, 1926, General Motors introduced what came to be known as the annual model change, or yearly modifications to each model. And some of these changes, there are measurable material improvements, such as better brakes, a more reliable transmission. And it was like back in 26, right, when things were still
experimental,
being designed. But most were cosmetic and stylish and intended to provide an emotional reward, the pleasure of owning the newest car on the block, or the thrill of a more powerful engine, or some clever new gadget or convenience. And this is part of what you call conspicuous consumption. And they were doing this specifically knowing our human weakness, how we look to other people, how we compare, how we care about
you have last year's car?
I know, right? What happened to you? Did you lose your job? Anyhow, so it's totally just playing up to our psychological needs. And so it's no new thing, right? And we have, as decades of consumers, have been played by, manufacturers, capitalists, whose goal is to maximize their profits. And that's why when people talk about freedom, I want to remind them that, hey, this is a freedom that you can break out of their control and gain for yourself. By the way, so this little passage is from a very good book that I just started reading. It's called The Impulse Society by Paul Roberts. I've only read the first chapter, but it's so good that, I don't even want to read it. I want to savor it, and I want to read it again and again. But anyhow, so these are a few tricks. And speaking of iPods, I was trying to remember. Wait, what was that? That was one of the older things, right? Or, the first few that went crazy that everybody had. And I found that over the years, because I use iPhones, I found that iPhones don't last long. The ones I have, they lasted for about, on average, 3 years. Now, you pay thousands here in RMB for an iPhone. And they only last for, because I don't change my, electronic gadgets until they break. I'm not interested in them, so to speak. I don't crave for the newer model. I don't fall for that stuff. I just use them. But then they break so easily. Sometimes it's minor problems. If it's the screen, that I can ask someone to come over and fix it, or you go take it to the shop. But then if something is, it's internal with the battery at all, it's just sometimes it's not worth it to fix it. So this is a complaint, against iPhones. They should last longer.
I agree. These things should last longer for those folks who don't want to have to buy new models every year. But what's really interesting here in Beijing is there are an enormous amount of capable, electronic experts who are easily accessible. So there are some apps here in Beijing where you can take in your Xiaomi and your Huawei and your iPhone and you can mix and match parts all you want. No, it's really, you can buy the phone of your dreams. Yeah, there's so many cool things you can actually. I don't do that stuff, but I know I have friends who play around with doing that. But what's really interesting? If you look at Mac products, they actually configure the tools that you will need to be unique tools. So if you have a new Apple phone comes out, there will be, instead of hex wrench, they'll have a penta wrench. What I mean is, instead of
whatever these are,
instead of 6 little grooves in the place you would turn the tiny little screw, it'll have 5 or 7. It'll have some bizarre shape, so that only a tool that is meant to fix an Apple product can be used to fix that Apple product. So even when they do give right to repair in some countries around the world, A lot of people who do repairs will have to get an entirely new set of tools from that company in order to repair that product.
But I bet the manufacturers in China can make anything to crack these iPhone phones. I don't think that'll be a big problem.
Well, there's another issue.
These super
Passwords. Password. So a lot of little parts of it will have a password to open it up or to look at it digitally or to find out what's wrong with it. Because sometimes you have to attach a part of an iPhone or whatever phone, any kind of electronic device, to a computer to ask it what's broken in you. And it will tell you what's broken. But you can't ask it that if you don't have the password. So the law that was passed in New York in December of 2022, their right to repair law, actually was changed between when it was passed and when it was designed to when it was actually passed, so that it allowed companies to reserve these passwords and not give them out. So even if you can't, now that you can, exactly. If you have the right to repair, but most repair persons will not be able to do it because they don't have the necessary equipment, tools, digital passwords, and things to actually repair these kinds of high-tech gadgets and gizmos.
Okay, so it's like every step you take to try to fix whatever you own, like a message will flash on the screen that say, just buy a new one. Right?
Yeah, I think that's the thing for most people is they can't be bothered. I mean, if you have an iron, right, or a washing machine from 1985, I think there's really good, reason to keep fixing that piece of equipment. Maybe if it's not too energy inefficient. But like if you have a brand new phone that stopped working after a couple years, I think most of us are just going to say time to upgrade. And there are ways to quote recycle your phone where you send it to like a group of people who rips it apart and reuses all of the rare earth metals inside of it.
There are apps where you recycle these, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know how well they pay, but for me, I have like 3 iPhones in my desk.
Wow.
Because I feel like I have photos in there, even though I don't even remember the password to my iPhone. Seriously. But I feel like someday I'm going to remember because I have photos in there. And it sounds really silly. Every time something breaks, like these cameras that we used to have, the better ones, like the ones that cost like 10,000 RMB. They've been sitting there forever, and my husband's like, you gotta sell these. Like he said that like 10 years ago. He's like, you gotta sell these. You can, they'll still sell for some money, but years later they're gonna be worth nothing.
Well, I mean,
for me, it's like it's
gonna go through
and computers and stuff.
Eventually, it's gonna become super valuable because maybe at first it's like decreases in value for the first 10 or 20 years, but at some point it actually increases in value for collectors.
When I'm 80, and then if I can still find it.
You're listening to The Break.
And also another complaint, okay? This is kind of a warning to other consumers. So besides the fact that iPhones, at least the ones I've owned, tend to break down pretty soon, like in average 3 years. Also, the brand Dyson, very, very popular here in China. So they have these vacuum cleaners that you don't need to plug in, like the non-plug-in vacuum cleaners. You just charge them. They have super battery. They'll last for a while, maybe like an hour.
Amazing.
So it's enough for you to clean your apartment, maybe once or twice. And it was very convenient. I bought it at the start of the pandemic because at that time, our nanny couldn't come, or our nanny couldn't come. So I was like, this will help me clean my place. And it worked very nicely, right? But only for 2 years. And something broke. And I think it's just the on and off button. So you press the button. When you press it, it starts vacuuming. It sounds like one of the spring or whatever inside is broken. So I don't think it's like electronic parts that went wrong. So it's something that's very physical. I don't know what is it, like something that should be pretty easy to fix if you just have the parts. But I don't know how. So I called them. They said it would cost me about $200.
Wow.
To fix it. And I was like,
the Dyson company?
Yeah, like their official brand website. So they were very nice. But I'm like, I can't pay you 1,300 RMB to fix a button. I was like, it was, I don't think it's anything wrong. It's just totally mechanical, but they have to we have to change the whole head or something. And so it's still sitting in my storage somewhere. I don't want to throw it away. Well, maybe later I'll find hopefully some repair guy. I don't know if they'll have the right parts.
You're in Beijing. Yeah, I'm sure there's some technical expert here in Beijing. You just have to go to the right place that can fix anything you can imagine.
See, like if my dad were here, he's a very handy man. He'll be able to fix things like cars, any kind of cars, houses, or down to like little things like my earrings or necklaces. He's just one of those guys. He can fix anything. But when I was reading this right to repair thing, I was like, are you telling me now that if I have to fix my home appliances, breaking the law for fixing it myself?
I think
because my dad fixes
yeah.
everything.
Yeah. You are technically breaking some national law somewhere in some countries if you repair something, but most of the punishment isn't going to be unless you're reverse engineering it. The punishment is going to be, now that you have messed around with your Dyson and fixed something yourself, Dyson probably will never allow you to use their services to fix that device again, because they'll say, well, you've already tried to repair this, so we're not liable for
anything. But they're so expensive anyway.
Yeah.
Warranties
stop working also.
Yeah, it was right after 2 years. Isn't that smart?
I always wondered this, because I watched a documentary about light bulbs in the United States and the Soviet Union. It's really interesting.
You watched a documentary about light bulbs?
I'm not the most interesting person. Okay, so apparently, I've never been to the Soviet Union or Russia or anything, but I have no vested interest. But what I think is really interesting is that the United States, the companies, because this is really smart. You're on a CEO board, you're one of the executives. You design your light bulb to last a year so that people have to keep buying light bulbs. In the Soviet Union, they had the opposite kind of thinking. They were like, we need to make a light bulb so that once they have the light bulb, they don't need another light bulb. So in the Soviet Union, they designed light bulbs to last 20 or 30 years. And in the United States, they're building designing and building light bulbs that last a year. Now, I watched an hour documentary about this, by the way. I find it absolutely fascinating that, I think capitalism has there are required reasons why right now in the global order capitalism makes sense for a lot of countries in some degree. But some of the aspects of capitalism, like this design to fail aspect, are clearly problematic for consumers. Sure, if I am the CEO of GE, this is great. But if I'm some lady who needs a light bulb, then I have to keep buying a light bulb every single year, and that's not fair to the consumer. They should be able to buy things that last for a decade or two.
We should it's high time to start rethinking capitalism. I actually bought 10 books.
Wow.
Just about capitalism, because I think we can't delay this for any longer. And one of the books I just read was it's called Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire. It's by Rebecca Henderson, and I think it's published just 2 years ago. 2020. And I'm starting to see more books that calling people to wake up to the idea that everything is for maximizing profit, because it's going to lead us to ruin. We will be living in piles of garbage, burning garbage, and our future generations will be able to breathe clean air. And it's not just about the environment; it's so much more. Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting that if you look at the United States and China, those are the places that you and I have lived and been. I think both of them have some degree of capitalism, and that is useful. So I think that it's not about doing away with capitalism necessarily. It's about tweaking.
It's tweaking it.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Right,
it's about
right.
tweaking it so that the consumer, so that most people are better off.
Oh yeah. The best military commander is not he who fights 100 battles and wins every one of them. The best military strategy does not lead to the desiccation of the enemy's capital city. Decoding the Art of War will help you understand why there's no art in war and how Sun Tzu stayed undefeatable using the science of war, with fun stories and insightful breakdown of famous battles. Tune in to Decoding the Art of War on Spotify.
You're listening to The Bridge.
I wanted to actually point out about this New York law that they passed. This comes from an article, New York, June 4th, 2022. U.S. passes first right to repair law for digital electronics. By U.S., it means New York. And in that article, right to repair. It's very strange. You think of right to food, right, or like water, or like health, or something, but right to repair. I guess that we live in a new time. Anyways, one of the things you cannot repair, it does not include our police radios. And I thought that was really interesting personally. Like, it just stuck out to me. Why not police radios? Like, is there
I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
It could be security reasons. But like, if you fix it by a private person, they might implant something that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, why?
Like, you're solving a crime.
No, but I mean, I think based on the movies I watch, because that's all I know about police radios. They're like, anyone can listen into the police anyway, because it's just like in the air. All you have to do is have like a CB radio and turn it to the right frequency, and you can listen to the police anyway. I think people do that professionally, like including news organizations. So for me, it was like, literally, New York doesn't want police to have a gadget guy who repairs his own radios because they have a deal with the police radio manufacturer, and they want to make sure that guy keeps making money. Because I can't imagine why the police wouldn't be able to repair their own radios. Like, because if you have a station, right, with like 1,000 police in it, and you're in a big city, then like you could just have some repair guy who fixes them all, and then the person who they outsource that to will be out of a job. And so it seems to me like there's some kind of inside deal here to protect someone's investment.
Well, that's always the case, I think. But, I will be able to, leave the police radios alone. But somebody, can you fix my Dyson, vacuum cleaner, or my iPhone? And also have a broken MacBook.
Oh, sure.
So, it's actually the newest one we bought. And one of those days, I was a little clumsy, and my cell phone literally just, touched the screen. My cell phone kind of fell, but it wasn't, from a high place. I was just using it. And it hit the screen, and the screen it's broken. So I have these, two dark, wide stripes, and they're getting, dark stripes. They're getting wider.
Oh, no.
Covering, 1/4 of the screen. I mean, I can still see most of the screen, but it's broken. Well, we called to the official, site to ask how much it will cost to place the screen.
Yeah.
They were saying, somewhere around, 4,000 RMB.
What?
4,000 to 5,000 RMB. I was like, are you crazy?
Well, how long?
That's half the cost.
You didn't have a warranty?
I don't remember. My husband bought it. I don't know the details.
It was fairly new because
It's fairly new, yeah.
We bought a Xiaomi laptop for me, and we bumped the back of it pretty hard, actually, the back of the screen, and it's so shattered. 1/3 of it was instantly gone, and so we mailed it to them, and they mailed it us back because we had just bought it a month before, and it was, I think, free. As far I don't remember correctly, I may be mistaken, but I think it was free, and they just replaced the screen entirely or whatever, and so
that's pretty nice.
Saved the day because we had just bought it. It was still inside of whatever warranty we had.
Yeah, I don't know about the warranty. Well, maybe I'll look. But we probably either didn't get it or some other reason. And then we asked, we're trying to find some private person to fix it, and it will cost about 2,000 or so. I mean, it's, I guess it's okay, but still.
It's worth it.
Yeah, and now our solution is to project it onto the TV.
I was going to say that. You could just use it as external screen. My wife asked me to do that after it got broken. I said, no way.
Right, but if it's still within warranty. But anyhow, I mean, these things are easily broken, and I really, really want to get to the part that I'm so excited about, which is repair cafes.
Yeah.
I'm so happy about this idea that somebody, came up with this. It's not a fancy idea here in China because I think especially in towns and villages, people are used to fixing stuff, right? If something is broken, you don't just throw it away. It's just not the way people do things. Maybe in major cities, that's how people have, I guess, quote unquote, used to doing things. Just a throwaway society. But for the older generations and for people who have, I guess, lower average income, it's the mentality is still let's fix it. I mean, I remember back in the days when I was little, we used to have these, they're not like peddlers, but they're not peddlers who sell stuff, but are recyclers. They will be on their tricycle, and they will usually call out, you know, in the neighborhood. We recycle fridge, we recycle TV. Really?
I was living inside of Xinjiang, and there was a guy who would come around and ask to repair things and ask to take things.
Right, like cycle, yeah. But
he had like one of those little plastic megaphone things, and it would yell constantly in a loop. Coming around to repair, coming around to repair, and it would have a list of the things that exactly. Exactly.
And so I used to wonder what they do with it. I guess you can take them apart, right? Like a junkyard. You can sell the parts, or they fix it and they sell them to like villages or you know, like poor places where people can still make good use of it for years to come.
Really quickly, so this is from an article by CGTN, October of 2021, fighting for the right to repair old electronic devices. And in it talks about in Europe, they have a lot of manufacturers who are required to allow people to repair their devices. And there are these things called repair cafes, where people get together like a flea market. And in Germany, they have thousands of these events. And, you know, people who have the technical ability to repair different things will have different booths. And people show up and say, hey, can you fix this Dyson vacuum cleaner? Or can you fix this, you know, MacBook Air?
Here's my mug in 3 parts.
And they do this for free. People just show up out of the goodness of their heart with the technical skill, and they just, you know, they spend a couple hours helping 10 or 20 people repair their various devices.
Wow. I mean, I was so excited when I learned about this idea, and I actually came across this watching a random video on Bilibili. And the video is about a similar, I'm not too sure that they are like of the same system, but it's also called Repair Cafe, and the Chinese name is 零废弃成都. It's like a project or some kind of movement, zero waste movement. I don't know if you've heard of it. This particular one is called Zero Waste Chengdu, and I think it's related to one of the hostels. Like it's called Flip Flop Hostel. So I guess where, you know, young people stay when they travel. So it's it was, I guess, inspired by the fact that, you know, this throwaway attitude can't continue, right? There's too much of a burden on Earth, too much waste. And so they started this repair cafe, and the founders are called Rocco and Emma, and it was inspired by, you know, the lady Martini Postma?
No.
I'm not too sure if I'm saying her name right. She's the one who started repair cafes back in 2009. And so the owners of this Zero Waste Chengdu project, they were telling the story of this lady. So back in 2009, she had this like toy from her childhood that was broken, and she wanted to fix it. So, you know, maybe friends got together and they just started fixing things. I mean, you can totally imagine that, right? Let's get together, see if someone can fix my, you know, teddy bear or some other, you know, they even have like ceramic toys. What an idea. But anyhow, so these people got together and they found it to be so exciting, so much fun. You know, they met regularly.
What is ceramics?
Ceramics, like, you know, your mugs and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Or like, back in the days, they're like toys, rabbits, bunnies. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can hear it.
This is a Pink Dwendrin. I got a Pink Dwendrin toy.
Yeah, this is like the second time you're showing that off now. So this whole thing started in, I think, in Amsterdam, Holland. And so it basically started with this lady who wanted to fix a childhood toy. Yeah. And so they got together every month, and they found this so exciting. I mean, imagine in like northern parts of Europe where people, I don't know, my impression is it's a pretty lonely place. You know, they're not all that populated.
It's a very exciting place to go. I don't know.
Well, it's beautiful, but probably not quite exciting, right?
Well, you will find
right? A little better. You can go to cafes.
They have cities and stuff.
But for me, I feel like this is such a good way, not just to fix things and, you know, help lighten the burden on the environment, but also for people to get together.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because if you just go to, like, the cafe, you're still, like, strangers, right? You know, what shall we talk about? But if you have a purpose, And even better, you have a mission, right? And every month, something's broken, then people from the neighborhood bring it to the Repair Cafe, and some guy with the skills, like my dad, will be very, very popular, and get together and know how to fix things. And wouldn't you be interested, Jason?
I would be interested in making a lot of money making a TV show called Repair Cafe about a bunch of people who get together and fix things together because, number one, it would promote the idea of repair cafes. Number two, I bet it would be hecka funny.
But I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and with Jason shooting the video, and also I became interested. I was like, this is a really good idea, and I'm so proud of the younger generation, who are not confined by a lot of these old ways of thinking, who can break free from some of the constraints, of like status or showing off material wealth, and to go after more noble purposes. So anyhow, I was like, this is interesting, and I went online and researched a bit more about this lady. I think her name's Martini Postma, Martine. She's an activist and a former journalist who started the Repair Cafe movement. And nowadays, they have over 2,000 cafes in more than 30 countries.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Isn't that exciting? And together, they prevented around 420,000 kilos of waste in 2019 alone.
Wow.
So basically, if you weigh all the stuff they fixed and then they're still using, it's equal to, 420,000.
Thank you for bringing this to all the lawyers' attention. We're going to get these ladies for all of the criminal acts that they've been committing.
All right. That cattle, ma'am, you got to turn that in.
You're listening to The Bridge.
There's another article, nationalreview.com, reduce, reuse, recycle, and repair. So repair apparently can be like what you're talking about, a way to help the environment. And that, it talks about the kinds of products in Europe that you're allowed to repair according to an eco-design and energy labeling package that was passed in the European Union in 2019. And the things that you are allowed to repair: refrigerators, washing machines, dishwashers, home televisions, electronic displays, light sources, separate control gears, external power supplies, electronic motors, refrigerators, power transformers, and welding equipment. So that does not have cell phones on it. So if these repair groups, what really fascinates me is the gray area. If you try to repair your cell phone in Europe, are you going to get in trouble?
I was thinking the same thing, Jason. I was hoping you would tell me the answer. So if I'm like, if I just given up on my iPhone, I was like, I'm just going to try to fix it, right? Even if it's like broken, fine, I'll just get a new one. So if I crack that open and start trying to fix it, will somebody call the police?
The helicopter instantaneously overhead with lights on.
Oh my gosh. Maybe there will be some kind of alarm inside the iPhone and a little camera. And report yourself to the local police. Okay, anyhow. So, let me continue with the, so they prevented so many kilos of waste in 2019 alone. And according to the Foundation's calculation, that's approximately 10 million kilograms of carbon dioxide successfully prevented.
Wow.
And coffee machines made up most of those items.
Wow.
That has slipped through our net. Coffee machines.
They're actually really simple, coffee machines. I have a coffee machine, and if it broke, I'm not even a technical person. I could probably fix it because all it has is one part that gets hot, and then the other part lets water go through.
It's like, I gotta change the net. It's broken. But in one of the books, I think, speaking of CO2 or carbon dioxide, here's some information. This is from Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire. I will recommend more people reading this book. So it talks about how energy is actually not cheap. Now, energy seems cheap because we don't pay its full cost. So I guess you don't sit around worrying about the bills you pay for electricity.
I don't pay
or for water. Right, because, well, this special apartment, right?
Yeah.
But also in general, right? It's not like a huge deal. But of course, the past winter, or this winter, past 2 winters actually, more people in the world have been worrying about energy costs.
Gas is a big deal in Europe, yeah.
Exactly. But in general, in this book it says, energy is cheap because we don't pay its full cost. American consumers pay roughly, this is from page 20.
I'm confused.
Well, it'll be clear. So on page 20, it says, American consumers pay roughly 5 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity from coal-fired power plants. But burning coal emits enormous quantities of carbon dioxide, one of the leading causes of global warming. And producing a kilowatt hour of coal-fired electricity causes at least another 4 cents of climate-related change. And moreover, burning coal kills thousands of people every year and destroys the health of many more. And extraction, transportation, processing, and combustion of coal in the U.S. cost 24,000 lives to be lost every year due to lung and heart diseases.
Wow.
And 11,000 additional lives are lost annually due to the high health burdens found in coal mining regions. So one estimate suggests that every ton of carbon dioxide emissions is associated with current health care costs about $40 every ton, which would imply a cost per kilowatt hour of about 4 cents. And they figured out that this means we're only paying about 40% of the real costs of burning coal.
You're making me want to turn the lights off.
Yeah, I'm researching. Let's see. I've turned it off already. But yes, we got to pay more attention, because if you just consider how much money you're paying for electricity, you're not taking in the whole picture. There are a lot of additional costs that you're not paying, like health costs, environmental costs.
Simply divesting from coal and gas and oil, and starting to get our energy from solar and wind, nuclear, and other forms of power that don't emit fossil fuels. Wouldn't that solve a lot of these problems?
That will help. But sometimes it's just a simple fact that, why waste? Now, if you work for the electronic industry, if you're selling electricity, they will, you will love it when everybody keeps their light on, because they'll be making more money. But that's not how we should judge things, right?
There's a way to problematize just that, and I was just thinking of it. So that, say, rich billionaire CEO who wants you to keep your lights on, they also have grandchildren who have to grow up on Earth. So maybe it's not in our best interest for us to keep the lights on.
Well, I hope they figure that in. But, they have the resources to move their grandchild to other places. Yeah, or even to Mars, seriously. So I don't think they're as worried. There'll still be, pockets of places on Earth where people can inhabit, and they will probably buy those places.
Oh, yeah.
我爱你 I love you 我爱你 This might be the easiest way to say I love you, since there are so many other romantic expressions. No matter if you're a rookie
你好，我的中文也讲讲。
or a sophisticated learner.
我来北京5年了，我是本地人。
There is definitely something that will interest you. Check out Takeaway Chinese, a word that starts with 你好.
Experience the musical classics of the East. Mingle with the masters of Chinese music.
我的这种美召唤了女性。
因为蒙古人被称为马背人，Music Talk.
Witness the sound of antiquity and modernity.
You're listening to The Bridge.
Anyhow, so I want to continue with this article I found.
Sure.
It's actually from iFixit.com. iFixit, what a name. And the article, the name is The Woman Behind the Repair Cafe Movement.
That's from
So
the
it's not-
CBN article.
It is? Anyhow, that's
It's actually mentioned.
Okay, great. Well, so we're talking about, same things. And it's not just about, saving the environment, and I think in the end, it's just about doing the right thing, We don't have to use economic models or equations to figure things out. Now, the Martini Postma said, our lives are packed with things, right? And it doesn't have to be. You know, if something is broken, worn out, not needed anymore, is it like, do we just automatically throw them away? Why can't we invest a little bit more time, right? And more people, she said, are not feeling good about throwing our throwaway society and are ready for change. They don't throw away because they want to, but because they don't know what else to do. Exactly. Like, I haven't thrown away my Dyson because I spent like 3,000 RMB on it, and I know just one minor part is broken, but I just haven't found a good way of, a cheaper way of fixing it. And so I mentioned that the things they bring to repair cafes really could be anything. I mean, she started it by fixing a toy, right, from her childhood. And other people, they bring their vacuum cleaners, bicycles, lamps, trousers, sewing machines, clocks, coats, irons, and laptops. And imagine the atmosphere where people get together in a nice little cafe and they start fixing things together. And I think even like the younger generation will be so attracted to it. I mean, so many people, they pay to get, you know, for classes about how to fix things, you know, how things are wired. This will be a great opportunity. And she also said that a lot of the things that people bring to repair cafes are not really broken. They just need some attention. You know, they need to be cleaned, lubricated, or descaled. In many cases, the solutions are really simple, but people are lacking knowledge on how to take care of them, maintain or fix things, and that's the problem. Which reminds me, I have a broken printer somewhere.
Everything in your house is broken.
No, I still remember the day we bought it. You know, maybe it was about like 10 years ago, and it was fancy back then. It's a printer, and you can fax things, and you can make copies and scan things.
I don't even know if fax numbers even exist anymore. What era are you from, baby?
It was still a time, you know, it bridged the old and the newer times. But yeah, it was very fancy. It was quite chunky, though. And, but we didn't really use it a lot. So I think the problem is that the place where ink comes in is clogged. So I think because old ink wasn't cleaned off, so some of the, I don't know, like the channels are blocked or something. You know, where the tube for the ink, whatever.
With the chemicals.
Yeah, I literally think that's the only problem, but it's like inside somewhere, and I don't want to be tinkering with it. But I don't know how to fix it. So actually, we bought a new printer just like last year, but I feel bad about the old one.
I don't think it's I mean, when we live in a large place like Beijing, I actually don't worry as much about it, because if I put something that is only requires small value, like to repair, or someone is going to know how to repair, if I just put that outside, it's gone in a couple hours. And in my imagination is, someone is going to go fix that somehow because they know the place to go, and they're going to give it or sell it to someone, either give it away to their family or they're going to sell it for something. So I usually don't feel bad. Also, I want to point out that some kinds of technology, like, get better, and if you're like me, I do a lot of media, I do a lot of Instagram stuff. My current phone was okay last year, and it's not good enough. My current cell phone is not good enough.
Why, you're getting wrinkly? You're blaming your phone?
No, serious. The phone, it can't keep up with the amount of pixels and the quality of picture I need to take, and because I did take an enormous amount of footage that I can't do without. I literally can't do without. I try to delete my photos. I need twice or 4 times the amount of memory. So I'm going to buy another new phone. And you know what? I've been doing that every year as they get better, and it just becomes necessary to keep up with the cutting-edge technology. So I imagine for the next several... I have a collection of old phones like you, but I know the passwords to my baby. So I
was going to ask. I just not change my passwords.
We can repurpose them. If you take a phone card and you go to the phone company, like here in China, you can switch it to Wi-Fi only. So you can turn your most recent cell phone into a mobile hotspot. So you literally put it in your bag when you go out, and you have your old phone and your new phone, and your old phone is a walking hotspot, and your new phone uses more. It works. You actually end up by repurposing them.
I can see you walking down the hutongs in Beijing, feeling so proud of yourself with the 2 cell phones, like one emitting whatever. signals.
It's cheaper.
But
So
anyhow,
if I use my phone plan, this is true. If I use my phone plan Wi-Fi, it costs more than a simple chip that does not have enough phone number attached to it. It's just for Wi-Fi. So having my old phone be a Wi-Fi hotspot, I actually save money. But I mean, if there were some old phone that I had that was completely useless, and I usually do get rid of, and I bring them to, because they have physical locations here in Beijing where there's a huge booth where they have like different kinds of metal. You'd be surprised. Maybe you've seen it. Yeah, there's a whole slot just for like special metal. They have slots for plastic, slots for different cheaper kinds of plastic, slots for paper, slots for phones, slots and different kinds of things. And you put them into these holes in this giant thing. Presumably, it all goes to somewhere where it can be processed. And, you're
talking about like a recycling station?
In America, the recycling stations I've been to are like, there's a huge truck full of glass, and they're like, they take a certain kind of glass. But here in China, the recycling centers I've seen are very specific. So you have the normal ones that are close to you, but if you investigate, there's usually a place within a kilometer of your home here in Beijing where you can go and recycle anything, and it will be able to go into the right place for its specific kinds of devices.
Like a video.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I will.
Yeah.
There's a place not far from here.
And if you travel to like Norway, like Northern Europe, and also Japan, I think they are really good at recycling. They've got it all worked out, and you'll be like amazed at how much work they put into recycling their stuff, which is something that we should all learn. And I actually worry about garbage every day.
You should. There are places.
I'm serious.
Yeah, you should. It's really terrible.
Every day I look at the garbage we produce, not just food, but like all kinds of boxes and packaging, and I worry. I'm like, what are we going to do with all these? And if I really do a thorough job, it's going to take me some time to sort things through every day. And then, so for a lot of people, they just dump it outside, right? And now, of course, Beijing has done more work when it comes to segregating your garbage. The kitchen garbage and other recyclables, but I think a lot more can be done. But it's something that sometimes it keeps me awake at night. Oh, all the garbage we produce.
You're listening to The Bridge.
I want to keep sharing this article I found. And so in this article it says the lack of knowledge isn't always consumers' fault, like how to fix things. It's that manufacturers often don't provide repair information to consumers. And spare parts are hard to find. See, that's the thing about my Dyson vacuum cleaner. They probably have some like very specific buttons and springs that they use. And it says also modern products are often good enough to last for a few years, but not made to last for decades. And when they break, replacing them is not only cheaper, but also easier than looking for a spare part and the right repair manual, which is very true. So that's why the Repair Cafe Foundation, they introduced the Repair Monitor, which is an online tool that enables Repair Cafe volunteers to register repair data about the product and brands brought to their cafe. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So you have like a repair database, yeah. And with Repair Monitor, volunteers can log information like product defects and the success of specific repairs. That information is then turned over to the foundation to provide insights into the durability and repairability of the products we use daily. And hopefully, if we keep doing this, manufacturers will be pushed into making more durable products. Instead of just knowingly producing that will only last for like 2 to 3 years. Speaking of which, the fridge I think that I own is like 20 years old or something, and it's still working. I mean, it's like a really old model, but some of the things they make back then really last for a long time, but not the newer ones.
I feel two ways about that because, in different countries, they have stickers on your different electronic kind of devices, and they tell you how energy efficient that device is. And, whether we like it or not, the newer models are like 10 times more energy efficient than older models. So,
that's true.
So it's nice that we can save that fridge, but we have to really measure it against the impact that it's having on the consumption of energy. Is it worth saving the fridge if it's going to use like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times as much energy? So, I think there needs to be like an online energy calculator for helping people make those kinds of decisions too.
Well, I'm emotionally attached to that fridge. I think it's just so honest and so diligent and dedicated. You know, it never whines. It doesn't make any trouble. It just does its thing. So I think I'm gonna keep it for as long as it lasts. And also, this remind me of, I was just talking with my husband last night. I was like, oh, why do I have all of these lights on? And he was like, oh, I've put in these newest light bulbs that are very, very energy efficient. So even if I turn all the lights on, they actually, they don't use as much energy as like one light bulb in the past.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, but still turn these off.
If you still only need one, you only need one, right? For reading. I'm imagining Bebe is got a pile of books out. You only really need one good light bulb.
Yeah. Anyhow, well, the last part of the article I want to share is changing the world starts with a change in thinking. Because, it's not just about how to fix things, right? It's really a new way of thinking, or actually a revival of an older way of thinking, a better way of thinking. It's as the repair movement and the right to repair still have a way to go. But the good news is, all you need to do to change your own status quo is change the way you think. Fixing things is not as hard as many people expect.
I don't want to buy anything. All I have to do is start thinking differently. That's fantastic. You saved me so much money.
Well, it says whether you are replacing a smartphone battery or mending clothes, and repair doesn't just connect us to our stuff, but to our stuff. And repair doesn't just connect us to our stuff. It also helps us connect with other people, whether it's through the iFixit community or those nice folks who helped you fix your coffee machine at a repair cafe. Isn't that nice?
It is.
And
people who need to get out of their house and make friends with other people, and not being of anyone in particular.
I know. And I'll be lugging my 10 broken electronic pieces.
I expect in 6 months that Baby will be running her own repair facility somewhere.
If somebody can really fix these, I'm willing to pay.
You and your dad both show up, and then it'll be worth it, right?
I think it's time to invite my dad over. I think he'll be able to fix all of them. Yeah, and I think he really enjoys the process of fixing things. I mean, he's really good at fixing cars, and I think he basically learned it himself. And I once asked him about it. I was like, why do you spend so much time doing all of this? He's like, I feel so rewarded when I can mend something that's broken, and to take life back into the whole machine again. He's even able to fix like dentures.
Wow.
Like fake teeth. He I don't know.
It's almost as good as it's almost as good as before.
No, he did. He fixed my grandma's
I believe you.
dentures, and they worked for years, and glasses and every little thing.
That's really
I think
good.
he's even brave enough to fix people's teeth if people allow him to do so.
Well, my dad worked construction. He was really good at fixing homes. So if anything was wrong with your home, anything at all, he'd be able to fix it. My grandmother probably saved tens of thousands of dollars because if anything broke in her house or needed to be updated, my dad would just show up and work the weekend until it was repaired.
Yeah, seriously, you know how much money that saves? I mean, every time my mom complains about my dad, I remind her that, how much money we save because dad can fix things? Literally from air conditioner to the roof to, I don't know, whatever, boiler, anything. Dentures, yeah. Which are very, very expensive.
Yeah, they are.
To fix and to get.
Yeah, I don't have any.
So,
I imagine.
I'm so happy that we got into this. I mean, at the start of what I was reading, the material set, the material you sent me, I was like, I'm not interested in farm machinery. But it's so much bigger than that. And I want to ask our listeners if you can find one of these repair cafes around, where you live. I mean, there's one in Chengdu at least. Right? And I think it's going to be a popular idea for the younger generation. And not to mention the possible downturn in world economy, right? It's not potential, but I think people are just being nice.
Yeah, it does seem like it's very strong probability, but, no one can tell the future.
So it's a good time that we change our mentality and our throwaway attitude and start reusing things. A lot of things are not really that broken, right? You don't have to always buy new things.
It's always a great pleasure talking with you, Baby. Thank you for your enthusiasm on this kind of esoteric topic.
And also, before we log off, I just want to recommend the books they mentioned in the show. One is Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire by Rebecca Henderson, and the other is called The Impulse Society, What's Wrong with Getting What We Want by Paul Rubbers. These are really good books that I think it's time that we read things like this. All right, thank you, Jason.
Thank you, baby.